Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the It's the Ball Don't Lie podcast. It's like it says pull up tray on the screen, but it's only because we only have so many banners, I guess. But it's myself, Samson Folk Louis Zatzman, here to talk about Raptors basketball. The topic today: expectations, coaching, etc. We also will be talking about the Raptors media game, since I know a couple people are interested in that. Some people because I think they feel interested in us as people. There's an empathy thing there, and some people I think like saying, "Oh my God, these guys suck at basketball," which is also listen. I won't deny anybody of that. I also have to say this episode is a presentation of TunyBet Online Sportsbook and Casino. Lewis, how are you doing? Freshly crowned MVP for those people who don't know.
I'm doing great, brother. I had a lot of fun at the media game.
I always have so much fun. I went to the group chat immediately, and everyone is shocked that I only took 3 shots. I'm like, I'm not there. Like, yo, let me get some buckets, man. It's you're playing with friends. Everyone's just going out there. Mind you, you were kind of there to go get buckets a little bit.
It was fairly easy to go get buckets.
MVP. That's what you're
Uh,
supposed to say.
I did not expect to be like aggressive looking for my shot. Um, but when the handle's tight, the handle's tight. What can you say?
Yeah, we have a comment here that says finally catching one of these live, starting to lose my hairline. So hello to my fellow bald brothers. Hello, hello. Okay, so the topic today we're talking about Darko. We have a little bit more insight now after Darko stepped in and tried to do some sideline coaching as well. I guess all coaching is from the sideline in some form or another. But you said you had a couple questions for me today, so I actually want to swing it to you. Set the tone in whatever way you see fit.
Yeah, I think I always listen to you and Trey. One of my favorite podcasts, one of the only basketball podcasts I listen to. Just to give you a sense, I listen to a lot of history podcasts.
Hmm.
I listen to some like, you know, news podcasts and obviously This American Life.
Sure.
And I'll listen to you and Trey because you guys are awesome. And you've said some things in the last few episodes that I think have really interesting sort of tenor with one another. And I was curious, I wanted to nail down on your thought of coaching. Do you feel as though Darko Rajakovic, based on where the Raptors have performed this season, has maximized what he could get out of this team?
No, I don't think they're maximized. And I think it is the lack of. And listen, I don't think they're maximized because I don't see them in practice running this stuff. Maybe Darko knows they're maximized, right? Maybe he sees stuff in practice and just does not have confidence that it'll carry over in game. Maybe that's what it is. But there is, I think, a lack of volume in some of these two-man combinations. And the two-man combination, two-man actions, are the genesis of most of the best looks in the NBA. Now you can walk
Mhm.
that line further and say that, their most actions now are conceived with 5 men. Considered alignment is very important. Off-ball movement is, yes, but you do have to get that initial advantage. And the Raptors seem quite shy on not only that in general, the ability to score out of two-man actions with aplomb, but also the volume of it between their best players. And that to me is so obviously something that they have to find out about during games on the court, or maybe even selfishly because I don't get to see it in practice. I want to see it for myself too. I don't know, but I think that is the big thing. Otherwise, I mean, he has them as a top 10 defense. Their their shot location data is really strong. They take the right types of shots a lot of times. They play in transition all the time. Like they take a lot of easy shots. They don't make enough of them. They play good defense. And there's a couple of players on the roster now who are playing better defense than they ever had. Like all that stuff to me points to good coaching. And I'm
Mhm.
not a big like rotations, lineups. You're like looking at cleaning the glass and then telling a coach like, "You're an idiot. This lineup is +6. Just play that lineup and you'll be a good coach." I never think it's that simple. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, so those two-man actions, I presume, are more quickly Pirtle screens with quickly handling Pirtle screening and more Scottie Barnes quickly screens with Barnes handling quickly
I also
screening,
I
or the
also would
inverse
like
of
to
that as
see.
well.
Well, I mean, you listened. I'd like to see Brandon and Scottie doing stuff.
Yeah. Now, do you think that the fact that those iterations, that's 4 iterations of actions, are minimized, and they have been minimized, none of those are really high volume, is because of the coach, because of the players, because of the system? Now, you and I talked about the quickly Barnes and
Hmm.
why there's less, and you and Joe Wolfond also talked about that. But why? Like, those are 4 2-man actions that seem obvious. Why have they not been such a major diet or staple of Toronto's diet?
Well, I think that the Raptors do like the idea of playing random offense, let's say. And they do like
Mhm.
some of those, especially they're starting a higher percentage of their, I guess, actions after turning down a transition look or off the cuff of transition. So they do
Mhm.
like the idea of random offense. Being super strict on what 2-man actions you're going to get, I think is something that's meaningful. But it's the first look stuff I think is really important for the Raptors. And I do think it would behoove them to allow probably role players a little bit more room to try things on the second side instead of always reversing the ball back for one of the guys to run something, and usually it's not even one of the combinations we talked about. And I think it would behoove them to run more of that. Now, is that the coach? Is that the players? I will never be able to answer that unless a player comes out and says, I'm not doing X or Y. We only get so many quotes like Darko gave last year where Scottie ended up taking a shot and Darko was like, this play was for this. You know what I mean? So it's that's where I'm at with it. I don't know where you stand on that either.
If that random offense ends up with so many Ingram isolations, and it does, it really, I think it's partially the guys aren't comfortable trying to create. It's partially being discouraged in a way. And I think Ingram really sucks that stuff into his orbit when he gets those late clock touches. Do you think the system, the offensive system, because it results in all that, is it limiting what combinations can be sort of empowered?
I don't think so. I think they get the right types of shots a lot of times. And like that's part of the thing they're underperforming is whether or not you want to see, because personally I think being able to play through your best players is incredibly important. And
Mhm.
in the playoffs, it's much better to have players who beat schemes that are targeted at them than it is to try and like run away from schemes. And the best
Yeah.
players are the ones who take exaggerated defenses in stride and don't do what the defense wants them to do, but do what
Mhm.
they want to do because they manipulate the defense. So the Raptors are, I think, quite short on that. And so they play what on its face and is spoken about like it's egalitarian basketball, but also ends up so much of the usage goes to the top four. There's very little creation or usage from the back end players, so it's not truly egalitarian. And I think it is a little bit dry and rote in how they're trying to attempt to do things. And I just from one spot of the season to the next, I think teams are doing a much better job at just clamping down on the Raptors' pet plays. And I think it's because they've been running the same thing. So I would like a little bit more innovation there. I know this
They've
is like,
clearly been
yeah,
schemed in a way that they weren't earlier on in the season. Sorry, keep going.
well, I was just gonna say, like, I'm schlub guy, and obviously Darko is a head coach, and I'm saying like I would like to see them try more. He has a lot more information than me, but that is how I feel about it. I don't know how you feel about that, but I guess can I before we get into the meat of everything, this is something that SP007 says. Last year we won 30 and we sacrificed winning. This year we're at 35 wins and sacrificed winning games, like the two Minnesota OKC SA games most recently. I don't think they sacrificed anything, but
Yeah,
this
they just
brings up,
lost.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think this team is trying to lose any games this year. I don't think that they're trying anything that is like we're valuing development over winning. I just don't think that's there. But there was a comment on the last podcast, which I think is interesting and worth noting, that says, it's addressing Trey and I. It says, I totally get that you guys are close to the team as you can get, and these kinds of losses hit different for somebody who covers and talks about the team. That said, it's been disappointing to see the negativity take over as much as it has, given expectations at the start of the season. So, and then they obviously go on to talk about 1 year to the next. I will say this kind of stuff, and this is getting to the point of like expectations, this kind of stuff doesn't pass for me because last year I predicted the Raptors to win 38 games. The talent on that team I thought was about 38, 40 wins. They tanked. They had immense amount of injuries. I do still think that team last year was roughly probably a 38 win team around there. I predicted 43 wins this year. Brandon Ingram, another year of development for guys, that kind of stuff. That was worth about 5-6 wins to me, not 15. I think the jump, and the organization does it too. I disagree with it completely. I think it is a false premise, and I just don't think it's honest about the basketball or team building in the NBA today to say we had 30 wins, we jumped to 43, like that's the difference. That isn't the difference. The team hasn't actually changed that radically. Also, the players who need to get better are not on steal of a deal deals. The room for like upward growth from these guys is less wide open because they're not actually that young. The back end of the roster is just stacked with newly drafted guys who those guys this season have not produced or shown like a significant amount of potential either. So this team, if it is a 43, 42, 44 win team or roughly around that, they have improved, but in the way that is really meaningful, which is more than wins sometimes, it comes off a little light to me, which is why I'm disappointed and which is why it's negative. Because what seemed like a team that was going to overshoot 43, 44, and they still might, and maybe punch up at 50, I felt like, okay, this is a little bit more to chew on. But if they showed me that and it comes back down to this, then I think that they're just the team that paid everybody to be here. And the most disappointing part is not that. Brandon Ingram is great. He's an all-star. Scottie Barnes is great. RJ Barrett is moving the chains. Quickly has been, I think, very strong lately. Jakob Poeltl being back is big. But these guys are not like limitless growth. You can't look at them and be like, yeah, they're going to grow. This team will gel. Their limitations will no longer exist. They'll develop past them. The development has to come from somewhere else. Scott Lilly says there's just not enough talent on the back end. Simple. I think that's why I feel more negative. Where do you land on winning expectations this year? Are you disappointed at all?
Not really. I think they kind of are who we thought they'd be. I think a lot of the narrative is driven by social media, and we know that the algorithm just drives negativity. And
Sure.
so people are negative. Like it's what, if we were to publish a video where we are dumping all over the Raptors, calling for, Darko Rakovic to be fired, which we aren't, that would do better. That would get more clicks. That's the nature of the beast. Conversation is driven much more. So when people say it's really negative, I actually think from what my conversations in reality, people are kind of fine with this team. They're not like over the moon impressed, but I think fans seem to recognize that there is improvement. Now, it is funny that the Raptors have taken an inherently massively variant activity and made it into basically zero variance. Like the only losses they had that were surprising really were to the Hornets when they lost to teams that were worse than them. And then it turns out the Hornets are great. So it's just a zero variance team, which is not disappointing as much as it's just boring. And it's hard to separate what we watch sports for in terms of thrill versus when you can conflate thrill with like joy of improvement. And it's certainly not thrilling. Neither the style of play nor the expectations of upsets and variance, and none of that is thrilling. But in terms of actual performance, no, I don't think I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I think I am disappointed. I actually do mean that. I think that this team has been really healthy.
Hmm.
I think this team has
Yeah.
been really healthy. I think Brandon Ingram has played a lot. I think that Scottie
Yep.
Barnes has played a lot. I think that they have played good defense, and I think the quickly stuff is finally starting to come around. And but the thing is, the expectation for a team like this is, Brandon, nobody gets cheaper, everyone gets more expensive, and they don't have any money. Like, all of the potential of this team lies within its capacity to change. That's why everything is like, what is Bobby gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
AISM says really healthy. RJ missed a lot of games. Yak has missed a half a season. The, People compile this stuff. The Raptors have been a really healthy team this season. It is what it is. But like, everyone goes and looks and says, like, Bobby, what is the next change? What is that? What is it going to be? Because everyone is looking at it, and a lot of teams that claim to be really young, a lot of teams that claim to be like, look at this big jump we made. The conversation is not about like, oh, what changes will be made. It's about, let's watch these guys grow. But I do think it's meaningful that that does not pass the sniff test for this team. This is not Detroit signing Tobias Harris or Duncan Robinson. This is something different. And I feel that way. I feel that way. And I think, I don't know how many fans, but some people do. And I think that's a true feeling for me. I can't explain it any further, but that's my best attempt at it.
We were both pretty low on their offense coming into the year. I think in our first podcast, no, the one before this season, we talked about if they were a top 15 or so team or offensive team, we would have been happy. They have been. I mean, not in a pretty way, certainly in an ugly way, but I don't know. I think they've hit their limitations like a brick wall and just over and over. And there's not only have they hit it, there's no hope of overcoming those limitations, which, sure, that's something to be disappointed about. But I think you and I seem to have predicted that fairly precisely.
But like, here's the thing: coming into it as a realist and predicting it as like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is it. But the thing that disappoints me is that I felt as though they were showing it was a little bit better, that they
Mm.
were playing a little bit more cohesive. And is the difference between one and the other just like the capacity of the team to hit open catch and shoot jumpers? I don't know. But I
Like,
do think it has been, for me, disappointing because it's tough to see the growth on this team without a change from outside of the roster. And that puts myself, in a position to, especially if we're discussing like, okay, how does this team change? We have to look for it. It puts the analyst cap on. It says like, hey, you have to go and be like a coach and you have to start inventing things for this team to do. Or the truly easier thing, which is why like analysts who cover a team coast to coast, day to day, have to be wrong about things or just not talk about things, is like, a lot of times the change is what's going to change on the roster. But I just, the ultimate potential of this team without clever maneuvering from Bobby, to get back to the Darko thing, I think that Darko has done a very strong job. It's not fully maximized, but I think he has gotten a lot out of this team. I don't look at this team as like, oh yeah, there's just these incredible things that are being slept on. There's so much room to go up from here. I just, I, it's a tough, it's a not a very, as you mentioned, boring, uncompelling place to be.
okay, let's dive back in then to the internal because we can't. I
Yeah,
mean, trades. There's no point talking
yeah,
about
of
that.
course. There's not,
Get
there's no
Grievous
shot.
Vasquez, trade him for OG Anunoby and Norm
Exactly.
Powell. That's how you win, and then draft Pascal. That was what a heater! What a heater! Anyway,
They were on one of the runs of all time. It
of
was
all time.
incredible.
So teams don't run 4-1, 3-1, 5-1 pick and rolls 20 times a game. When I
Mhm.
had Second Spectrum, this was something that I had pitched as a piece, I believe, never wrote it, Why don't teams use point guard screeners as the meat of an offense rather than just a spice in crunch time or late game plays? And I wanted to know why, because even if, as you and I want, the Raptors were to run more Barnes, Ingram, or Barnes quickly pick and rolls, it wouldn't be 20 times a game, 30. It wouldn't be their like what they initiate every set with. Why? Why is that not an option in the NBA?
Wait, say that again?
Why is 4-1 initiation not an option in the NBA for, like, you can run a 1-5 pick and roll 50 times a game. Why not 4-1?
Because power forwards just typically aren't as good of playmakers or live dribble shooters. The tree of options for the playmaker on a given play to score or to pass is just smaller, in my estimation.
So what's the if you want more Barnes quickly actions, and I agree, and they've been good too. They've also been good this year. They're finally playing well together.
Yeah.
Is it just like 2 extra times a game? Is that really what we're talking about?
I think that maybe it might be captured as like 2 extra times a game in the public facing second spectrum and the synergy, but I think probably I'd want it like 5, 6 more times a game. And I know this might seem a little bit abstract, but this is actually something that coaches talk about. And this is something is like, we need to know where we get points every game. And we need to know sometimes a play type is a swing and a play is a swing. And game to game, if your net rating is X or Y, if you're running a play that's going to net you over the course of 5, 6 possessions, if they're replacing ineffective plays, is it netting you 4 or 5 extra points? In the offensive rating, defensive rating, net rating, that would look like insanity. It would blow up your team in like a good sense if those things changed. And not to mention, if you are trying to like win one possession at a time, then okay, if you score 2 extra times a game running that, as opposed to something else on average, let's say, which would be a huge change. It might not even come out that big. That also means you get to set your defense 2 more times. That also means those are touches. It creates a more outsized effect and impact in those guys. And it also creates like a cascading effect that you're playmaking from different places on the floor. You can't load up as much on other things. Finding more efficacy in more places is always a good thing. And that's why I want this stuff to be investigated, at least for my own viewing on the court. They might be doing it in practice all the time.
Yeah. It is a fairly stick to the system offense. There's not a whole lot of chess being played, like offensive. Well, you see this stuff more than me. How many offensive adjustments do you see Darko make at halftime?
Lots. Tons.
Lots.
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with like, obviously he does make lineup changes. Like he addresses adjustments
Of
through
course.
lineup changes a lot of times because lineup changes have baked in adjustments to them. That like just by proxy of who's on the floor, they change what the Raptors are doing and trying to create. They change sometimes who's initiating plays, all that kind of stuff. But also like where they place their bigs and how they run the dunker spot versus like the short, the flash middle, all this stuff playing off of like these 5-man or 2-man actions where they're supplying with 3 or 4th guys. It's, to me, a lot of changes. And the player who receives the least amount of changes, I think, is Brandon. His is pretty simple all the way through. There's not as much tinkering. Sometimes they change like who's doing like the lift on the weak side. Sometimes they change who they load his side with. But I think the player who is most context dependent for his volume and his, I guess, like opportunity and efficiency is probably Scottie.
Emmanuel. Oh, it's Scottie.
Well, I think Emmanuel is simpler. It's just like, does he get to run pick and roll? Is he forming up? Is he hitting shots? Because Emmanuel, I don't think requires much tinkering in terms of like how you align the team. But Scottie, if you want to initiate with him, I think they do a lot of tinkering in where they place players and how they balance the floor.
He's been awesome at being willing to change how he'd play. I I think in preseason, I think S was on a podcast. He was worried about how he was playing after last year and all the pull up. He has been so amenable to just like changing his role completely, becoming a very different player. Um, really impressed with his coachability. Just as an aside, with what you're saying, a
Hmm.
lot of people talk about him as like, he's not an alpha, an offensive initiator. He is so good at what he's good at. You kind of just have to accept he's an exceptional player and is unique, right? His limitations are what they are and his strengths are what they are. Like them having these limitations are largely because of him, but them being good are also largely because of him. And it's just when he's off the floor against good teams, you cited the number, they're totally non-competitive. They don't have a chance, a hope, snowball in hell. And when he's
Yeah.
on the floor, they're punching right with him. He's won his minutes against these teams. So that's sort of all of that is rambling about what you said. Um,
I think to that point, like the alpha stuff, I never buy into it. And I mean, we just got, like Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. Just like Jalen Brown ended up being the Finals MVP. Like they both had terrible stats in that Finals. Like relative to Finals MVPs, neither of them shone, but they were the best players out there. We just saw Tyrese Halliburton get to the Finals, with Pascal Siakam, the Pacers, and the idea of like the number one guy should not be as strict as
yeah,
it is. That being said, I think that it is tough to cast Scottie in that, like, he is the number one guy who drives offense. I think you need things fulfilled on a team, and Scottie fulfills so many, but a lot of the things that he fulfills are things that a lot of stars don't do, which he deserves credit for. The holy smokes, he really gives a shit defensively. It's at a level that like most stars don't play. And this was brought up, when, because there was a light critique of him, not a heavy critique, but a light critique of him last podcast is like, he's doing it on both ends. How many stars do it on both ends? It's true. That is
mhm.
true. He's probably tired because he's face guarding Jalen Brunson and Anthony Edwards and guys like this. That is true. But when you are a star, you get these heavy, heavy expectations. And Scottie, as you said, the buy in to what he can help with has been impressive. And I think that's something that Jason Tatum does. Jason Tatum is a guy who will go long possessions without taking the ball. He'll play defensively unglamorous things. He'll focus on rebounding for a full half, just helping the Celtics win a front court matchup because he's huge. He'll help them, like everyone focuses on like, oh yeah, like Steven Adams is a guy who helps you win the turnover differential. Jason Tatum is. And so is Scottie Barnes. Now, is Scottie the level of, Jason Tatum offensive guy? No. But it's the through line of thought of like there's many different things you can do on the floor. And at some point you do have to, as you say, accept Scottie for what he is as a guy who does many things and not hand wring too much about the things he doesn't do. To bring it back to Darko, he also said, Scottie's going to be, a finals MVP. He's going to be an MVP. He's going to do all that kind of stuff. He has so much to grow as a player. What's your sniff test on that, on Darko's analysis of Scottie's potential? Is this an excited coach, or do you think he's peering into the future and seeing a speck of truth?
Neither. My sniff test is he knows it is a political position and he knows where his bread is buttered, basically. Scotty's the best player. He's phenomenal. Keep him happy, keeps the job safe. I think it's as simple as that.
That's not very. That's yeah. Actually, I don't think so. I think he actually
Really?
believes. I think he actually believes in him. Maybe maybe not like he truly believes there's an MVP there. I don't know. Like SP007 says, Scottie's at like 30%. I think you guys don't see it. Man, if he's at 30%, he's the greatest player of all time. In which case, I hope we're missing it because that would be incredible. But I think Darko is seeing a guy who I think it's probably fair to, if you are truly optimistic about Scottie's game, to see 29% from three, to see like a lack of a really strong dribble package and then to see where he excels elsewhere, then I think you could, if you were truly an optimist and say like shooting will come around, he'll be coached up on shooting, it comes. He'll learn all the permutations of defensive rotations and he'll outsmart and outfox. Tyrese Halliburton does the same thing, right? Like he doesn't reach the same spots on the floor consistently, but he does beat a lot of rotations just because he's seen them and he outsmarts them. The thing is, Scottie has to do that. It can all be talk, it can all be a million different things, but he like at some point, Darko is probably gonna if it doesn't happen, people will be like, wow, you said this guy was an MVP. That was kind of funny. But I think he's looking at Scottie probably as like a perennial all NBA player. And I guess in this new era of the league, if you're perennial all NBA, I mean, Cade Cunningham had MVP talk juice for a little while. You just got to stay healthy and hope that the 65 game thing comes creeping up for other guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the gap between Finals MVP and like third team All NBA is
It's
pretty
massive.
pretty wide.
It's huge.
And
Julius Randle.
I think Scottie Barnes is better now than Julius Randle has ever been. Like he is an exceptional player. I think he is a deserved all-star. He was a no doubt all-star with a bullet. I've never used that expression. Did I use that right?
Yeah, with a bullet. I use
We're
it a
cooking.
ton. I use it a ton.
I know. I never understand. But I think he's just really, really, really strong. But what he needs to add is just like fairly inaccessible in terms of getting to finals MVP.
Yeah. Phoenix Plays he says, is it strange Jaylen Brown won finals MVP and he fluctuates from fringe strong all NBA? The Celtics were a very unique case. Like Jason Tatum just missed everything. Jason Tatum is he was way better than Jaylen Brown in that series.
Yes.
I watched that series. Like Jaylen Brown did not deserve finals MVP. So if we're saying like Scottie needs to hope that he is the beneficiary or benefactor, I don't know which order it is, one of those of a bad voting decision, then like that's fine too. But also, I mean, Jaylen Brown, how good has he been this year? His level of shot making is nuts. He's also, Jaylen Brown probably fits in with like the Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam for Raptors fans, like unprecedented type of development too. Because I understand Jaylen Brown was the third overall pick. However, you look at what he came into the league with, and you look at what he's been able to do, his development is actually quite incredible too, and not something that you can set your watch to. The type of development you can set your watch to is like Otto Porter Jr. or something. Like that's like, yeah, this guy will get better and have a good prime and he'll get paid, but he probably won't reach the next level that you have to as a wing. Like that's the type of Otto Porter, and then he'll lose his toe in Toronto or something like that.
I was just about to say, then the ticking time bomb on those digits.
Yeah.
One goes missing, gone.
Donkey16 says, wasn't Siakam 24 minutes away from finals MVP? I don't know if they would have gave it to him. I think it probably would have. I mean, because his numbers weren't like incredible. Neither were Tyrese. I mean, it's the OKC defense, but I don't know if he would have got it. I think they would have given it to Tyrese as like the culmination.
Yeah, I think all those playoff game winners and
it was just so much.
Yeah. I think Tyrese was winning that. If they won, he was winning that no matter how he played in the finals. Yeah. So a lot of what I think this conversation is though, it's kind of a chicken and the egg with coaching. And well, this is one of the reasons I really enjoy talking about this with you, because you both see the coaching in a way that a lot of media don't, that I don't, but you also don't get lost in the trees. You see the forest, and you are not one to value coaching above playing. And I think a lot of what we're talking about in terms of how Darko can shift the terms of engagement offensively, I think it is answered in many ways by players. And, I talked about how much I would have liked Jaylen Brown on this team, but I was just the other day, I was looking through some numbers to see who might help, who could solve what the Raptors need. And there's so much that the only players are like Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, maybe one or two other guys. It's like there's no rotation player you can just toss in and be like, oh, this solves the fragility of their ecosystem. And I think the Darko conversation is one that I might think he's maximized. At least close enough. I agree with you, he hasn't. But at this point, what's the difference?
Yeah. I think the thing is, the difference is in markers that project to be mainstays. And like Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan were never, ever going to win a championship. It was not happening. However, the markers for consistent success were much stronger and much more resilient in the East, where they could only fall so far year to year or gain so much year to year. And that they got to tinker and improve around those guys because those markers were so certain. So certain. And I think that is a really important, those markers are something that this Raptors team should be finding. Because again, part of the reason why I'm disappointed is they were a team that was built to pivot. They were built to pivot. Stop it having it be the case that Jamal Shed at 49% true shooting, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Grady Dick, Jamison Battle, these guys have your best on-offs. You have to organize the team in a different way where your best players motivate winning in a stronger correlative sense. And you can say you don't see it. It's something I see when I watch the game. These markers for future success are incredibly important. And there are some teams that don't have that. And the Raptors, despite being talented, and despite definitely being talented enough to be in the playoffs, they need more certain markers to predict future success, even if it's at this level. Because if this is a team that is going to be like, hey, we're just starting the process, okay, then you should be compelled by other things, other markers that say you should continue this process. Because the sunk cost fallacy is not one to buy into as an NBA team. If you've built a rotten thing, you have to pivot. And it's up to the coach to figure out what can be built upon and to figure out like what exactly can we get out of this roster, who is worth it going forward. And honestly, you have to get the most out of the best players, the highest paid players, and see how they play together. Because as good as the concept of having like Brandon do X and Y with bench lineups, Scottie do X and Y with bench lineups, now they play together. Why, answering those questions is like, okay, but what happens when they play together? What happens when the guys you need to play together? And you can't hinge the season on like transitional lineups. To actually make the point, the Knicks used to be a team like this with Julius Randle and Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. They used to be a team that their defense was what won. And there is nobody from
lineups.
Yes. And their bench units, like Derrick Rose was a huge part of that team. And, Emmanuel Quickley was as well. You have to figure out more because it's a league of strengths, which is why the Raptors are kind of figuring out their way through the middle pack of the league, but they don't have strong enough strength to truly dominate or win these games against the upper echelon teams. And it brings me back to the point is like, I don't think you can just chalk it up as saying we're learning. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. You need to be learning, assessing, and like more than that. And honestly, like here's the thing. Are you the only team that's learning? Everyone else is capable of learning, but they may be learning with more talent. That's my big thing.
I buy all of that. I think that's all very compelling. Let me ask you this then. When they win, let's say the next time they win a playoff series.
Sure.
How many guys on this current roster are on that roster? Not when they're contending, when they win one playoff series. How many guys on this roster are still there?
It's a good question, but
it's two, right?
It could be. Do you think? Well, basically, the first question is like, do they win one with Brandon Ingram on the team? Does Brandon Ingram resign? I don't know what he does there. It could be 4. It could be 6.
Well, hold on. Let's actually name, rather than numbers, who's your 4 then, if you think
Okay.
4?
I personally think you can win a playoff series with Scottie Barnes as like one of your 2 best players. I think I
Oh,
would.
and
I personally
anyone who
would.
doesn't think that is unreasonable.
I personally would prefer that Scottie Barnes is the second best player, not because I'm
Okay.
so low on Scottie. I mean, I get enough shit for being, very pro Scottie, but because I think it would mean you've gotten a player of significant consequence. You can win a playoff series with Brandon Ingram too. You can.
If
Emmanuel,
Brandon's your third best player, you're really cooking with gas.
I think so. I think Emmanuel quickly. It really depends on the team. It depends if you can. I think you can win a playoff series with Emmanuel quickly on the roster because, well, actually, Emmanuel and RJ can count as one. Pick whichever one you want. Whatever they choose, they have to address the backcourt. Whatever they choose, right? Choose one of them. I think most people would choose quickly to stay, but choose whichever one you want. And I mean, in terms of just like the bench, I mean, like Jamal has a lot to prove this year. It'll be really interesting. Jacoby could be the ninth man. CMB could be the eighth man. Like this kind of stuff. But the starting unit is probably the most important thing. But it's tough to see it as it's currently organized. And in case if they win a playoff series this year, I'll eat all the humble pie as much as I can muster.
If they win a playoff series this year, I will be over the moon.
Yeah,
Because it would
it'd be
have to
incredible.
be against the Cavs, the Sixers, if everything is like perfect, but basically impossible at this point, or the Knicks, or, it's like very difficult, the Celtics. Um, yeah, because it just feels very much like, and I think this was because we planned this to be me Socratically just badgering you. Socrates must have been so unpopular. Just people were like walking to work. He'd be like, "Why do you think you know something?" It's like, I get why they killed him. He was so annoying. Anyway, I've been
Did
that
you ever read
annoying
that
to
book, The
you.
Trial of Socrates?
No, no, I haven't.
I didn't enjoy it
I
much.
uh I don't love my Greek philosophers, to be honest. I mean, everyone loves Plato. We're way off. Anyway,
Mhm.
so the plan was to badger you, and what I wanted to get to, where I wanted to sort of end up is, if there's, and I think you've already answered this question though, because what I wanted to ask about was, if there's no questions that remain, obviously there are, so my premise is dead, and this team isn't going to be the one that wins when they eventually win anyway, then like what convinces you or anyone in the chat or anyone else to watch the rest of this regular season?
This is the interesting thing, is that the Raptors are a very unique team. This is one
Yes,
of the most unique teams I've ever covered. One, as SP007 says, I love watching.
that's a great
Let's
answer.
not get away with that. Let's not get
Yeah,
away
that's a
from
great
that. I
answer.
mean, I just it's basketball, high level basketball. I enjoy like the Raptors in the first half against the Timberwolves. I was like, yeah, this is good basketball. I'm just watching good basketball. The same
Mhm.
way Darko came over to watch the media game and was just like watching. It's the worst shit you've ever seen in your life, but he's
But
eagerly
it's
watching
basketball.
and he gets excited and he's like, before you guys do the second half, let's run scenarios where you guys have to drop a play and convert. Like, it's just, if you like basketball, you quite enjoy the thing, right? Uh, but beyond that, I also think that you are waiting. And it's not bad to say you're waiting. You're waiting to see if something interesting may happen. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
SP007 says, I think we watch games differently. SP007 is, if I remember their chat history, waiting for Jacoby to pop off, waiting for CMB to pop off. Waiting and watching for that is interesting. And if they're playing good basketball too, well, there you go. This is there's plenty to watch for. But in the grand narrative of basketball and like what's meant to be accomplished, they are a very unique team in that they have offered very little production and compelling potential from the back end of the roster, and very little, let's say, impressive winning against high level teams from the front end of the roster. And that puts them in one of the most unique spots I've ever seen from a team. I know people talk about the 2013-14 season as they were 5-17 versus top 10 teams, and obviously they went on to be something. The thing is, Scottie's on the max. Kyle wasn't, and Kyle never was. And Kyle became a perennial All-NBA player. And he never got paid like it. And that contract changed everything for the Raptors. And DeMar also, his production obviously in the playoffs was tough. But I tell you this much, he is his regular season production was incredible. And they were so easy and they did so well at elevating other players that the Raptors became one of the most interesting teams year to year in just like transitioning guys in and out of the lineup. But yeah.
I have two things. One, Samson scored 2 buckets, someone asked. He didn't leave first gear. Samson was very chill, cool as a cucumber.
Wait, someone said I scored 2 buckets?
No, someone asked how many buckets you scored. I wanted to answer.
Oh yeah.
You had a beautiful in and out dribble and transition and one. You had a couple and ones.
I took 3 shots the whole game.
You took 3 shots. You let me. If you had wanted,
stop
the media
this.
game
Stop.
MVP.
Enough.
The other thing I wanted to say, I am watching for Emmanuel quickly. Yeah. I think he, in many ways, is the swing factor of the present. And for all of the guff, I think you said gruff the other episode. It's guff that you give someone.
I said for gruff? Giving gruff? Yeah, like a billy goat. Wow.
Yeah. For all of the guff that we give him, and I think rightly so, he shows flashes. Every once in a while, he'll have a game where he gets downhill. His like Euros get him to the rim. His passing is creative. It's not rote. It's improvisational. I mean, sure, he's had 4 of those games as a Raptor in his career, but that's 4 more than like any other player during that time playing in that way. And I think there's if we were talking about there's no hope of improvement because everything seems maxed out and the limitations are just so vivid and tangible. If there's anything that's hopeful, that is ephemeral, that is changeable, elastic, I'm just listing synonyms. I think it's his play at the guard spot.
Especially since he has, well, quite frankly, I think he has the easiest avenue to blow the top off because Scottie, what's easier? I personally believe that Scottie will continue to learn the middle of the floor offensively and improve there. But I don't think that's like a leap that comes randomly. But you could just get a little earworm in IQ's brain and be like, just shoot it. Just 11 threes. And if 4.5 of them go in over enough time, that's really meaningful. And nobody else has that. That is, IQ has carte blanche to try, and he has the talent to potentially succeed at it. And Broad Boy says ephemeral is definitely not equal to elastic. So you're being called out now.
It was in that context, though.
IQ definitely is like the guy in that sense. Giovanni also says at Samson, if Scottie Barnes can't carry an offense consistently to wins during the season, thinking he's going to carry the Raptors in the playoffs is being overly optimistic. I don't think that was an argument we made on here.
He does carry the Raptors, though, to wins.
Not offensively, certainly not.
No, but just in basketball, certainly, yes.
I mean, he helps tremendously. But again, it gets back to that question of ceiling, which is both the question of ceiling and team building is so oppressive, and it just squashes down conversation. But it is
like
the world
a ceiling.
we live in.
Squashes down.
Like like an inverted Star Wars trash compactor.
Yeah. That's exactly what I too was picturing.
The Raptors need an R2D2. That doesn't sound like it. That's more like
No, that was pretty good. I never liked the droids, man. Star Wars
you didn't
got
like the
so caught
droids.
up in the droids.
Hmm.
C-3PO is one of the most annoying movie characters in history.
So if you hate that guy, you must hate that somebody said we were like Frasier. It's cut from the same cloth, surely.
I've never seen Fraser.
I've seen like 3 episodes, and because my mom really liked the Great Salad and scrambled eggs, I'm calling again, like or whatever.
I don't get that.
That was the intro. But
Was it like MASH? I watched a little MASH.
it's
Was it
not like
anything
MASH. I think MASH is better. I've seen some MASH,
Suicide is painless.
but also that's the Korean War, is it not? MASH.
Yeah. Like the
Throwback to
15-year-long.
a Montreal conversation we had, if you'll recall, in a bar.
I don't recall.
You don't?
About the Korean War?
Yes. The Korean War, myself, you, S, sitting, and they played that Elliot, what's his
Smith.
face?
Elliot
Smith, and they played him. You're like, oh my God, they played Elliot Smith. Do you not recall?
I love that bar, man. My favorite part was when the bartender was like, everyone chill. I gotta go rip some kick flips outside. And just everyone left to go watch him skate. That was a great spot.
Yeah. It was
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Oh, I have to say, by the way, we have wait, before I do that, we have a $7 from M. Tavares 15. Thank you, by the way. That says, if Toronto's 26th draft pick doesn't pan out and if they don't improve next season, how long before Barnes is disgruntled and needs to be traded? This is a real question. I've talked about this a little bit in the past. It is rare, as much as Scottie is like a very affable, I think, and likable guy and seems very easy. Players do have expectations for playing in the playoffs and being on good teams, especially a player who gets paid a max contract and, all these other things. And Scottie, I'm sure, has conversations with other players about trying to get them to Toronto, vice versa. It's tough after 7 years to convince a guy not to team up somewhere. And that's probably that's.
I mean, just look at Chris Bosh.
They have to be good. They have to be in the playoffs, and otherwise it's a really tough. You're just asking Scottie like, trust us, bro, without proof of concept. Just please trust us, and he'll be like, it's been 7 years, man. You know what I mean? So I just that's where I feel about that. But also I need to say, one sec, let me bring up the media assets that are necessary for this next part. It stresses me out, everybody. And basketball can be stressful, but your choice of beer, it doesn't have to be. Coors Light delivers mountain cold refreshment. And when the mountains turn blue, people, the beer is as cold and refreshing as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold certified for a smoother finish. Celebrate responsibly. And of course, you must be of legal drinking age to partake. The rule of the Pull Up Tray podcast is that, and the Balt Don't Lie podcast is that, if you're underage, you do not get to imbibe or partake in beer. Certainly not Coors Light. We do not abide. You can find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. My ad reads, I can't imagine they're very compelling. If I were...
I can't imagine you should be saying things like that.
So it stressed me out. Do you have any thoughts on that before we attempt to close out the podcast in some form or fashion?
No, I think the Darko conversation is both an interesting one as like a weight-bearing sort of pillar of what the season has looked like, but also one that ends up being sort of a glancing blow because of the players on the roster. I think it's something about the Raptors, because we talked about it being perhaps boring, is they are unique. Their limitations are unique. The way they address them are unique. It may result in the same results over and over and over again. But as we dig deeper into the Darko Rakovic conversation, it does end up in different places that I'm not sure other teams would have the ability to access in terms of conversing about it.
I also think that there's a potential for this team that if there was a lesser coach than Darko that we're not even getting to a spot where we get to have these conversations, as you mentioned. Like it's just it can be worse because
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram is playing defense. And
Yes.
the defense has, I wrote about this, the defense has been tweaked to be better for the people on the team. The offense organizes the types of shots that most teams want. The Raptors just aren't hitting enough of them. And players are obviously really important in terms of organizing the offense and creating advantages to create shots, but also the hierarchy of decision making is the coach's wishes are a significant impact on that. And Phoenix Plays East says hot take: coaching is overrated. It's 90% talent, brother.
We're with you.
This is what I've been saying. Lewis has alluded to that. But yeah, that's how I feel. But also, Mr. Foo Frog says stress related drinking might be indicative of a problem. I am not stress related, and I do not say as much.
It's in fact the choice that is stress.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to talk about anything regarding the media game?
Yes,
Give
I
some
just saw
insights.
Devin say S was the MVP representing Raptors Republic. True. We actually had 2 MVPs from Raptors Republic.
Yeah.
And if Raptors Republic were to play basketball against all other media, I think it would be something of a beatdown.
That's what it was. That's Chelsea had Will's camera and she was filming. I don't know if Will ended up cutting up anything and putting it online. I'm not sure. But I was giving some commentary. I was like, you guys see Raptors Republic? That's special right there. That's special. But even, yeah, there was an MVP from each team. Myself and Lewis, we won. Can we also, are you okay with me discussing your name being misspelled?
If you have to.
Okay, I don't have to. So, I there were 2 teams. One was, I can't recite everybody, but Lewis and I were on the same team, and I think we won quite comfortably. Do you have any insights about how people played? And be nice, I think, is the rule.
Yeah, I think people know the score. Everyone is there. Yeah, truly. That's how I felt about it too. Also,
Yeah.
Samson, you and I really we bullied the guy. I'll be not nice to S because he's a dear friend and like one of my favorite people. So I'll be mean to him. We really picked on the guy. I poked him up at midcourt, and he didn't handle her against me after that. MVP, get out of here. Losing team doesn't get an MVP.
So
but everyone knew. Everyone knew. Don't go crazy. Don't get hurt. We're there for vibes. And it was there for vibes. Like, I think it was a really responsibly played game in just terms of hanging out, having fun.
I know everyone's giving me crap for saying shoot the ball more. Here's the thing, man. I do not find it compelling to turn it into like, how many could I get? 1, because that's not fun basketball for anybody. But 2, I might be disappointed at the answer. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I think it was a lot more fun. There was, I think, pretty diverse scoring across the team. Like Sean Woodley hit 3 threes. And
he had
we
a little
played
sidestep 3 at the end of the game that had Vin, the coach of our team, the NBA coach, very impressed.
Yeah, and like Will got up a lot of shots as well too. We played with our team. I ended up taking the jump ball, and I won. By the way, I won. But we played a very like 5-out style, and our bigs put up a lot of shots. So we really valued the variance of the 3-point shot, and the bigs who were taking the most of those shots were Scott and Will and Sean. And Sean shot the best of everybody. So that was fun.
And we had the Noah board.
Yeah.
Because the Raptors have this great technology, and it, you've green dots if it's good because it's video gamified, and red dots if it's bad, and you can see the degrees of difference and the inches you miss by front or long. And Will, even when he missed, his Noah board was green, baby.
Was
Noah
it?
Board really liked Will's jumper. Yeah. I was watching everyone's Noah Board.
Wow, I didn't look at it once.
There were some, just when I was on the bench, there were some shots up there that the dots were just like, it almost broke. They were so far in the red to the side. It was, but Will was in the green pretty much every time he shot.
I was seeing if I could max it out because I was shooting these super, not during the game, but afterwards, the super high arcing ones, just being like, I wonder how many degrees it can go up. Also, nobody noticed, but
I'll
like
tell you how many degrees it goes up to, baby. 360.
that
I
would
took trigonometry.
that's funny. But also nobody looked at it. I had like an almost green straight line. After the game ended, I hit like a 32-foot pull up. And it was like almost perfect direct line on the Noah board. But everyone was then we handed out the MVPs. But I wanted somebody to see my handiwork on the Noah board. Um, who also Jeremy, he's a photographer. He was I think really fun because he wanted it. He had like
Yeah.
he was like he had the spunk of Wemby at the All-Star game like, "No, I want to win. I want to get it." I would say who is the most intense to you? Who wanted
Will.
it the most? Yeah.
Will was screaming at us about rotations and whatnot.
And Ryan Wolstad as well. And Jeremy. I think
Well,
those are the three
he was
guys.
internally, he was fuming on the inside.
Mm. Where else do you fume? Do you fume on the outside? Is that fumes?
Some
Fumes
people fume on the
exit
outside.
something. Right? Fumes exit something. So you have to fume on the inside and then because fume comes from within.
Now we know.
Phoenix Plays Z says, what was the most common play type?
Isolation.
Yeah, isolation, pick and roll, probably. Although they were like run a play. So I was like, okay, we're running the IQ play, the shallow 77. And the coaching staff was like, oh, we run that play. And I was like, yeah. And then also, I mean, we had a great play drawn up that netted a wide open three. Because basically what happened is Darko, he came in after the first half and he was like, okay, we're doing a scenario. Each team gets 6 seconds to draw up a play and try and score. You're down one. And, I mean, our coach, the lovely man, he did a hell of a job drawing it up. And Sean came wide open for a three. It didn't go down. It was a better play than what Eric drew up. Eric Curry did not draw up. Well, actually, I don't know what he drew up, but the play did not run smoothly. Our play ran very smoothly, I'll say.
Yep. It was good. It was fun. It was like
And the food after.
pretty chill, but everyone was hooping, you know? Everyone at least has played basketball, knows how to play. That it's all good.
It's just fun, man. Like
Nice to hang out with your friends.
and also like you and I have gone to lots of not lately, but lots of pickup basketball together. And I tell you, pickup basketball can be so shite, man. You get like the wrong person in the gym. It just is what a headache it can be. And there's nobody like that, for these games, which is, I think, very important because I don't know who would hold them to account if they were. Like who
Part of
steps
me
in?
wants to be that guy in the gym for the media game. It would be pretty funny to ruin everyone's media game by just pounding the rock.
Yeah, that would be funny. That would be funny. I want to play the coaches. They keep saying like that's never going to happen. I want to play the coaches. I don't care if we lose. I think it would be fun. Also, like some of the players were watching us, and I'm sure having a good laugh. Grady watched probably like 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
now, you might be
Grady
saying,
watched a little.
Go ahead.
Sandra watched a little. What were you saying? You said I might be saying.
I was gonna make a joke. Not a super kind one. I was gonna be like, Grady, get back to work. You don't get to watch the game, but it's just being an asshole. My apologies. Also, I will say, by the way, everybody, you knew we weren't getting out of here without this. This segment is brought to you by what's a presentation of TunyBet Online Sportsbook and Casino. Thousands of slot games like casino at your fingertips and a sportsbook made for Ontario. Get your game on with TunyBet. TunyBet is licensed and regulated by the AGCO and iGaming Ontario, 19 plus Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Okay, betting line. We have a betting line. It's very compelling for everyone, I'm sure. Houston Rockets versus the Spurs. The Rockets are plus 4.5. The Spurs are minus 4.5. If you want to make a decision on that, do so. Those are the numbers. I've alerted you to them. Do you have any thoughts on those numbers, Lewis? Rockets versus
No
Spurs?
thoughts.
Not even the numbers, but do you like a team? Not even who will win. Do you like one of those teams better than the others? I love the Spurs.
I think Wemby is going to be the greatest basketball player in history.
He cried after a regular season win. That was awesome.
He's something we've never seen. I pitched a million places after that first game he played against the Raptors in Toronto when Scottie Barnes just like had no interest in playing
Left
basketball.
the building. Yeah.
Yeah. And I pitched a million outlets. I wanted to write a like a Gonzo style piece where I followed him around and wrote about what it's like for NBA players to find something that they've never met before, what it's like for fans to I just wanted to write some good sort of creative writing about Wemby. People did not like this pitch, but he inspires a level of interest and thought in his game in basketball that it's very, very unique and rare. And I admire the hell out of that.
Hunter S. Zatzman, Tyler Ricky Zatzman. Only so many guys get to write these pieces. Actually, Katie gets to write a couple of these pieces every once in a while too. I don't know the last time I saw one, but she's written lots like that. I think are pretty compelling. The easiest case to make about the unique aspect of Wemby and his stardom is that Britney Spears got arrested trying to like run up to him before he played an NBA game. That is incredible, quite frankly.
He's a celebrity in a way that other celebrities admire. He's a celebrity.
Well, also, and a guy who I think is has very few, or he is either very unscrupulous or very scrupulous, depending on which way you view it. But I think is very open in commenting on things that NBA stars typically are not open about commenting on.
Yeah.
Which I thought one of the best things was he came to Vegas and he was like, this place is dystopian. This place is like hell on earth. And I was like, yep, he gets it, man. He totally gets it. He reads books before games. Hell yeah. I appreciate him.
I think he actually might read them too.
Yeah, I think he actually reads them. Yeah. He takes pictures in front of the Mao mural, like this is not common. And not in like a meme type of way, which I know not the Danny Green Holocaust Museum, I had to do it to him picture.
Well, the thing about, because everyone's persona in the NBA, not everyone, but many are curated, and they have people who make those decisions for them, what they wear, what public facing persona they wear. And either it was fake or it was real, but if it was real, that's cool as hell. If it was fake, that's still cool that the persona he's creating is one who takes a photo in front of the Chairman Mao statue.
Yes, that's a great point. Whether it's real or not, wow, there's a lot to chew on. I actually want to ask you one more question. So Saturday Winters is a bit rude, but says Darko is one smart moron. And then Rules 263 says, this is what happens when you hire a Euro coach. Next coach needs to be American. I'm sorry. Okay. And also Saturday Winter says, I hate Euro coach if it's not soccer. These two are doing the combination dance. Does this mean anything to you? The American versus Euro?
Just no.
No, it doesn't. It does not mean anything to me. I'll say I don't think that American people are born with a gift for coaching as opposed to European coaches. I think Darko's a good coach.
Yep,
but not because he's European. But I mean, if
just
that
because of
helped
how
him,
he coaches.
I mean, you've been at the Tony Cañamaras from Spain is always asking in the the scrums. He'll ask every coach about what do you think about European basketball this or European basketball that. And if you actually read the stuff that Tony puts out, it's like a collection of so many different coaches talking about how they were influenced by Europe and the European game. As somebody who pays attention to some of the emerging trends in the league, a lot of the emerging trends of the past like 5-10 years were more prominent in Europe for a time, and
Yeah.
people took from Europe to bring it to the NBA. And I don't think I just wouldn't be able to follow the logic of you can learn things from Europe, but it is only up to an American coach to learn it from Europe and then execute it properly because they're American, so they can execute it properly. I don't think I feel such a way.
I do have a couple just responding. Darko is not a developmental coach. Head coaches are not developmental coaches. That's not their job. They don't have time for that. He was a phenomenal developmental coach when he was one, but head coaches don't do that. And also, Trace Jackson Davis was not really traded for to play. He's injury reserve. He'll play when he gets a chance, but when they're healthy, and they have been healthy, I think the plan was for him not to play, and that's normal.
Yeah. And further to that point is like, I think that in the immediate film room is like Trace can operate what the Raptors do in a pinch, but
Yeah.
they didn't get him, and I don't think we saw. I mean, listen, there's an economy of analysis, maybe, and it's better to get like extremely excited about a new player and be like, this guy will change everything. Trace Jackson Davis was never meant to.
Yeah.
Most of what Trace Jackson Davis was doing was, I think, helping the Raptors slide loose of some money problems.
Yeah.
And also on top of that, I think Trace is a very likable young man. I think that he understands a lot of the principles of the Raptors' ins and outs, offensively and defensively, because there are similarities between here and Golden State. And I think that was a seamless fit. And I know Giovanni says Trace Jackson has been Chris Boucher. I don't think Trace Jackson is. I don't think Trace Jackson is like of that much consequence to the Raptors winning and losing to, I guess, be like wringing your hands about it. That's where I feel about it.
Yeah. If he gets 6 minutes, if he gets 0 minutes, it doesn't change what should happen in the game. But that's why you get a guy who won't change, because if you have someone who can tank those minutes, the Raptors had that. Moreland, they had a big. You want an insurance. Yeah, Phoenix said insurance. You want an insurance big who doesn't change the outcome of the game if he does get minutes. That's the point. But it also means that's why you don't play him, because it doesn't change it.
Yep. That's probably a podcast. SP007 says, if you did a deep dive on Darko's 2+ season, you'll see why he's a good coach. I'd be surprised if there was another outlet that has done more work on Darko and what he's done as like a coach. But me personally, I like Darko as a man, and I think that I know people are asking what makes Darko a good coach. Some of what we talked about in the podcast, but
yeah, we're in 73 minutes now. You can go through it. We talked a lot about the choices he makes, what makes him good.
Yeah, but yeah, that's. Do you want to end the podcast? I'll leave it up to you.
No, you are so good at it. It's just like the media game. Just passing it up, passing the rock. Take the reins, brother.
All right. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. The next one of these will be like a very thorough deep dive. We'll have to find like a big topic, and myself and Trey as well. Myself and Trey might actually start talking about a little bit prospects. So if you have any thoughts about a prospect, myself and Trey will start to look at them. Also, Giovanni says, Samson, if you had a choice, Darko or Jordy. I have to go Jordy because he's a beautiful bald man, and I have to.
This bald don't lie.
Yeah, I mean, bald don't lie. What are you kidding me? Yeah. Thank you to everybody for listening. We appreciate you very much on a Saturday night tuning in with us. You can like the video before you get out of here, hype or anything of that sort. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in with us from myself and Lewis. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.